Hello, and welcome to another episode of Big Moves, Bigger Conversations. If you are looking at the screen, you're probably like, is that Sasha's twin? It is very much so my older sister.
Settle down. Settle down. Here she goes.
This is no other than Sahara Bryan.
Hello, world. Hello, world.
This is my older sister, as I share. We are 4 years apart.
That's it, and that is all.
And it's very clear that I am the youngest of four. Um, we often say Sahara suffers from middle child syndrome.
Not
Do we,
suffers.
do we think that's true?
I mean, whatever you have settled on, go ahead and live in that.
Love that. So, guys, I'm really excited about today's episode. We're talking all things books, and I always find in relationships, you always have to look at the relationship, right? Whether that's a romantic relationship, a friendship, anything like there has to be effort put towards that. And even in family relationships, when I think about my sister and I, we've been putting in the work lately, and I feel like we both found our affinity for reading. And because of that, it's brought us so much closer. And I'm really excited for you guys just to hear and really get inspired by the fact that like there are different things that sort of can pull people together. And for us at this stage of our lives, it's been books. And I'm really excited for you guys to hear just how passionate my sister is about reading and all things education because she is a teacher. And so we'll get a little bit into that. Because as a reminder, on Big Moves, Bigger Conversations, we're not just chatting, we're also educating. And I am excited for you guys to hear
Love
all
them.
things
Oh,
from Sahara. Okay. So Sahara, we're gonna just jump right in it. And when did you think reading became your thing?
So our maternal grandmother taught me and my older sister how to read. And so I feel like she is the person who inspired just the love, just kind of created the environment for reading to be a foundation for us. She created that phonological awareness and made it um, just really important, made it something that had to stick with us and something that we should pour value into.
Yeah. And Sahara's put emphasis that our grandmother had that experience with her and my older sister because but by the time, since I'm the youngest of four, we had actually lost my grandmother by the time I was like two.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't have those core memories. And even though I've always been exposed to individuals who read, like mommy reads all the time, she's put the reference, the dictionary or the thesaurus. And
Yes.
then I just remember you and Jasmine, excuse me, always having like a book, but it was nothing that I was so drawn to
Mm-hmm.
that I was like, oh, I really want to read. Like if it was a requirement in school, like I do remember reading like Harry Potter series or stuff like that. But again, I was much older. It wasn't something
Right.
engraved in me at an early age. So I do love that you were able to share that and really
And
have.
Jasmine and I, we read completely different as far as
Yeah,
run interests.
yeah.
So yeah.
But that's also interesting too. I mean, we are jumping a little bit ahead, but since we're here, when it comes to your genre of choice, what's a good book for Sarah?
So I am heavy into romance. I do love romance, contemporary romance,
Yeah.
for sure. But I also love some fantasy, and I'm definitely into a good thriller. So those three genres are my favorite. But if I could order them, romance would definitely be number one.
Okay. And so Sahara's open. She is open to all types of romance. I'm heavy on Black romance.
I wonder where you were going with that. She's open to.
Yeah, you read the Colleen Hoovers of the world. I don't necessarily jump over that line. Not yet, anyway. I've heard really good reviews. I'm
Mm-hmm.
more of a Kennedy Ryan type of girl. I'm really stuck on her here lately
Get
um,
into it.
because I love a good, not necessarily just a good happily ever after, but I also just love the character development and being able to see myself in the characters
Mm-hmm.
or that undertone where certain things are explained. It's just because we're in that culture, we get it, and I love
Yeah.
that. Um, and so I do want to go back a little bit to your childhood.
Okay.
And Ed. So we talked about our grandmother rather sharing the experience around reading. Is there ever a point in time as you think back over your life that you felt out of love with reading?
So not out of love with reading, but definitely a time where life got busy. In my early 20s, I had my son, and I was also going through my master's program
Yeah.
so that I could become a teacher. And so in that time frame, I just remember reading taking a back seat because I just didn't have, just didn't have the time. And so, but that part of my life, I do remember feeling like, there's a part of me missing. There's a part
Yeah.
of joy missing because
Yeah.
I'm so bogged down with life stuff.
Yeah.
So never falling out of it, but just not having the time for it.
Yeah. And I think for me, I have periods where I'm really reading and I'm like, oh, this book is so good, or I want to, then it's like periods where I'm like, I don't want to pick up a book. And I find that when I'm stressed, I always
Mm.
find time to read. But if I'm not in a good place, I don't want to read.
And I'm the opposite.
Yeah.
If the world is do too much around me, like I want to get lost into a really good book. And
That's
so
what it is.
I that's where I find my stress relief in a good book.
Yeah, in a great book.
In a great
So
book.
for those you do keep mentioning your kids, how often? Well, you have a teen.
I do have a little crew, but no,
Do you find? I mean, for other mothers, right, listening in, how do you carve out time to read?
yeah. I mean, I don't really watch TV, obviously. So my entertainment is books, and so much more now than maybe a year or two ago. I was like,
Yeah,
something's got to give. If my form of entertainment is going to be me reading, then
yeah,
it's just going to be reading because I don't really have that much extra time.
yeah,
So, just kind of making it a priority. Like this is something that you really enjoy. This is how you get your entertainment. And so when mommy has her 30 minutes or when, everybody else is doing their own thing, my choice is a book as opposed to my choice being a show, catching
yeah,
up on a series or whatever.
yeah, yeah. Yes, I've noted my nephew Egypt. Shout out to Egypt. He's told me oftentimes you close the door and you.
We talk
Not
about
really.
business. Say, yes, it is important. Now he'll come check on me several times. "Mommy, are you okay?" But really, it's just me kind of establishing like this is my time, especially after he's been at school with me all day. Because let's keep that clear,
Yeah,
and he can stop by anytime he wants to.
yeah,
I do see him several times a day. But when I come home and it's just I get my 30 minutes of peace, I choose to either take a nap or read a book. And that then the rest of the evening starts and it's dinner and it's
yeah,
homework and all the
yeah.
things. But I just like to take that time for myself.
Remember, this was a couple of weeks ago, and you were taking him to work, and I was like, "Oh, you're taking him to work, but what are you doing after?" And you were like, "I'm gonna sit here in the parking lot." I said, "Do what?" You were like, "I'm just gonna grab 15 more minutes of my book."
You got to steal your time. I mean, I'm commuting him back and forth to work, taking this one to the pool. You have to find your time. And then I got another my older stepson, he's got a job. So if I got to sit in the parking lot and wait for them to get off work in between shifts, I'm going to read a book.
For mental health. We just came out of Men's Mental Health in June, so shout out to all the mothers rather leaning into how they prioritize their mental health and finding a good book.
Yeah.
That is funny. All right, so continuing down that path, as we are talking about your kids, how important do you think it is to provide that exposure at a young age for individuals raising children?
I mean, I definitely, my youngest mimics everything that we do from working out to reading books to how we talk to one another. And
Yeah,
so he also is an avid reader. I
yeah,
mean, he has found his love in Diary of a Wimpy Kid, and we have all of that in the series, but just those kind of books in general. He likes comics, he likes magazines. He is definitely an avid reader. Now, he's not my oldest. I can take him to Barnes and Noble, or he will walk to Barnes and Noble, and he will keep a smile on his face.
yeah.
My youngest has not fallen in love with Barnes and Noble yet, but let a Scholastic's book fair come about, and he's asking for money. He's ready for me to break some bread.
Bringing you on this podcast and tell you, sending me requests.
Listen, he really filled up his library, and I mean, he has that is an extension of him just saying like, "Mommy, I want these books." Books bring him joy, so when he gets the opportunity for a fundraiser, he's like, "Hit up Auntie. I need all the cousins. I
For
need
$100, and I know them books ain't that high.
that library looks really good right now." So y'all have blessed him abundantly.
But I'm glad and happy to do it. So Sarah, you are a teacher. You've been a teacher for what,
11 years.
11 years? Wow. What are you seeing in the classroom when it comes to kids and reading now? versus when you started?
Yeah, I mean, I really started back home in Delaware. I taught in the inner city, and I just remember my kids saying like, "I don't have any books at home,"
Yeah.
and my parents have never read to me, and parents being very forthcoming about the fact that they don't read, they don't have the time to read to their children,
Yeah.
and that was really my experience in the city. And then I moved to Georgia, and in the suburbs, I mean, it was a little bit different. It was kind of a hit or miss whether or not kids had books at home.
Yeah.
But really here, we do a really good job of, especially working in Title One, of giving kids books to read, actual physical books to read. Now, fast forward, we got all this technology. We have plenty of online opportunities for students to read. And I just love to figure out what kids like to read,
Yeah.
because that's a misconception. We think we have to constantly give the kids stuff to read. And it's really just let them fall in love with what they like to read. Let them
Yeah.
pick up what they like to
Yeah.
read.
Yeah. I love that. As I'm thinking about Egypt, the youngest, what was you guys' experience going into Bar and Noble? Is it, hey son, this is the kids section, go? Or is it, let's sit down and I'm going to show you a couple of books that were my favorite growing up and then kind of gauge it that way?
So for Egypt, it's different. So Cameron, it was the Chicka Chicka Boom Boom, all the old school books, Dr. Seuss, he had all of those things.
Yeah.
Egypt's definitely different because we started at the library. So
Mm.
we had a standard Wednesday was our afternoon to go to the library, and
Yeah.
he could just go, and in the kids section, I'll go over to the adult section, and then we'll meet and we'll sit and we would just read for 20 minutes. And it could be independent, or he could read to me or I could read to him.
Yeah.
So that's really how we kind of developed our relationship with reading, as opposed to me introducing to him all those classics.
Yeah.
Because I wanted him, those classics don't necessarily stand,
Yeah. It's the tale of time. Yeah.
yeah, the test of time. And so he still has those on his bookshelf because he got them from his brother. But that's really, those were all about building repetition so
Mm.
that he could get that phonological or phonemic awareness, and so that he could then read to me. But once we're past that stage, then I want him to figure out, what do I enjoy reading, and that's how
Yeah.
that journey looked for him.
Yeah. And we talked a lot about like you and I building a relationship around books, but we've also extended that to our nieces.
Yeah, yeah,
Our Olivia and Zoe, my oldest sister's daughters. And we formed like a little book club amongst ourselves. Not that we're reading the same thing, but just having that conversation and talking, I feel like I get excited and thinking, wow, like all of my nieces and nephews are so bright. And I just think you don't like to compare kids to other people, but let me just tell you,
here she goes.
these are the smartest kids in the world.
I mean, well, thank you for that.
You know, one of the reasons I'm scared to have children is I want to make sure it's like the cream of the crop. You know?
Oh my gosh.
They are so bright, and I just think that they have just the foundation there, and what you and Jasmine have done around just ensuring that education is such a strong component. It's so vastly different than when we were coming up, right? I
Yeah.
never remember education was always important. Now on mommy's side, I never remember mommy saying you have to do X, Y, and Z. I
Mm.
just remember seeing you and Jasmine do X, Y, and Z and
Yeah.
mimicking that.
Yeah.
From my father's perspective, who wasn't highly educated, he was from the deep south, had maybe an eighth grade education, thought education was important, but it was from the perspective of this will change your life trajectory. Mommy
Mhm.
is college educated, so I just
Yeah.
think like it's so different how you guys are raising your kids, and it's kind of clear to me that you can tell when parents are pouring into their children,
Yeah.
especially from an education and spending time
Yeah.
with them because they show up in the world different. They
Differently.
show up different.
Yeah, our conversation is different. The way
Yeah.
we go about the world is different. I mean, but I think that that's, something that my husband and I, we talked about a lot when our kids were little, was just, he was kind of like, what does fatherhood look like from your perspective? What do you expect from a father? And one of the things that, I really am, I feel strongly about, is talking to your children from the time they are in that womb. You
Yeah.
are having conversation, and I mean talking. I don't mean talking at kids. I mean talking to them. And even when we fall into the goo goo gaga and all of that. And I'm not saying that that's not cute. I'm just saying talk to the child, because they are really listening
Yeah.
to your intonation. They're listening to how you articulate word. They are really, and they're absorbing that. And so when I hear from people that, oh my, your sons speak so well, it is simply because we've been talking to them from the time they were in the womb.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's it. Just having conversations.
Yeah. And I think it holds true. Like even when I am talking to the girls or when we're doing little videos or even with Egypt, people are questioning their age. And I'm like, hey, child, their development, their awareness is just so vastly different.
Yeah.
To all of the parents who are pouring into their children, and
Yes.
it's never too late. Like start reading, start providing that exposure, even if it's something that you're not interested in. Providing that environment for them to lean in.
There was a time where Egypt was there was too much there
Oh,
was
he's addicted. Oh, yeah, yeah, he was
there
addicted.
was
Yeah,
too much screen time.
yeah,
And for some men, it's like, hey, this is how we bond, we play games, this and so they find it as a way for them to kind of come together. But I'm like, there are other things. Kids have to be able to use their imagination, and we
yeah,
got to let them get bored.
yeah,
And so, I'm not saying that a book is boring, but how can I use my imagination in a different way? If I
yeah,
have to figure out what these characters are doing in these stories, that's a great way to stretch your imagination.
yeah,
And so we got to find other ways to entertain ourselves. My car, the truck right now is full of books.
yeah,
You get in the back seat and it is full, and they're all Egypt's
yeah.
because that iPad is done. It's cracked. It's gone.
Well,
It
and,
never.
and he needs to learn. Now, one of the things he does need to learn how to do is to clean up because that car shouldn't be filled with books.
Yeah, listen, I'm gonna keep my battles. I'd rather be full of books than full of trash. So hey, there's that.
I heard you. Okay, so moving on. All things books here. We are now at a point where Black romance, you'll see it on all social media platforms. What are your top
Oh,
recommendations? Let me set the scene here a little bit.
okay.
Someone's new. Aaron, what are you reading? What would you recommend? What is
Okay.
your
So I do have top five, but let me look at my list because
you have a list
yeah, because it's hard. It is hard to bring it down
together?
to a top five. And
Yeah.
I try to get my library in the bag, and I don't have them all like physically, but um, Verity by Colleen Hoover. I know you mentioned her earlier. That was the book of this year that really kind of got me hooked into a thriller. So
Okay.
I would say that it's also, I think, going to come out as a movie within the near future.
Mm-hmm.
Curvy Girl Summer is what I recommend for my teacher friends that see me reading a lot and they're like, girl, what are you reading? I feel like that's a really good kind of like down to earth, lots of banter, just very connectable book that you can kind of get into. And that it's one of my top reads of this year for sure. As far as romance and just relatable.
Yeah.
Queen Moves, and that's actually back here on my bookshelf. But Kennedy Ryan, I love her. I mean, I definitely love her writing
Yeah.
now
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
much more than her beginning books. So some people are like, I can read everything from that author, and I'm not necessarily like that because I do like a good book. I like a well written book. And so Queen Moves by her, it's a part of a series, but I'm not one to read a series.
Sequential order and care
Yeah,
about
I
all
don't,
those
I don't
things.
need it that way. I
Okay.
just, I can jump in and get what I need.
Yeah.
And then another author that I do enjoy is Jennifer Hartman. Now, I definitely think that she is more just kind of trauma, taboo related. So she's going to give you a couple or a relationship that shouldn't really be together, but she's going to make you fall in love with them and kind of root for them and cheer for them. So the
Yeah.
book from her, it's actually a young adult book, is Catch the Sun. And so just a great read this year. I definitely would recommend that one. And then another one from Kennedy Ryan is This Could Be Us. Now that is the second one in the series now, and I was nasty about that in the beginning because
Nasty. And I mean, I am going to let these people know how you talk to me in our book club, but keep going.
honestly, I when I read the prologue for the book, it was about the male main character,
Yeah.
just kind of breaking up, having a divorce
Yeah.
from his wife,
Yeah.
and having two kids with autism,
Yeah.
and they were twins. And I was like, this man
I'm
shouldn't
not
have
going to do them justice. Yeah.
he
Yeah.
didn't have
Yeah.
time to be with nobody else.
Yeah.
But honestly, Kennedy really, I mean, she did her research so very well because I have worked with kids with autism.
Yeah.
And you got to have time because you are dedicating your life to those children and their needs. And there's so much sensitivity around that. But she really did her research and she wrote that book so very well. And it's also about redemption,
Yeah.
right? And just you becoming a woman separate from a man and figuring out what life needs to look like for you. Yeah, outside of a relationship for sure. So it's a second one in the series, but absolutely just a great read. Great read.
I'm going to add those to my list. I do want to share a story though. I talked about recommendations. I want to talk about the time that I share with you a recommendation, and you took it to your broader, you took it to your broader book club. I don't even, what book was it?
It was
7 days.
7 days of June.
7 days of June.
7 days of June.
So just
Ooh,
to
yeah,
provide perspective, this was 2 years ago at this point. We were coming
yeah,
out of COVID, and I went on a binge of reading. Like I was looking at TikTok, I was looking at Instagram, and I mean, anytime somebody recommended a new black romance, like I had time. I was
yeah.
reading. Sahara was a part of and I'll let you describe the group, a book club with interesting demographic. And me connecting with my sister, who I know very well, and I know her appetite and what she's. Because people have their thing, right? People will say, "Oh yeah, I know she'll like that." Like we do that all the time, where you're like, "I don't know if you're gonna like it or you'll like
Hmm.
this." I read it and I was like, "Sahara, girl, get that book."
Yeah.
I'm gonna give you a little bit around the book. So the book is about a young woman who she struggles with drugs. Oh, I can't even. No, her partner.
So they had a relationship, I guess, when they were younger, but they
Yep.
both ended up being writers.
Yep.
And she was, I think they both did have some addiction issues.
Something where
Yeah,
I'm
addiction.
not gonna give y'all the book. Go get it. But they ended up together, and it was a good book. But again, when I go back to
Yes,
culture
they had
and
cultural nuances. Yeah, for sure.
perspective around, you know, um, intimate scenes or just
Hmm.
dialogue that you don't have to necessarily explain. I thought, Sahara, you're gonna love this.
Yeah.
Sahara, share who you recommended this book to and how this was your first recommendation in that
So
club.
before now, I am not one to read the back. When I take a recommendation, I go in cold, I go in blind, and that is not always the best thing.
Yeah.
And the first chapter starts out, wow. I mean, she's like doing her thing, and you were like, oh my gosh, but I didn't pre-read or the book, so I was a part of a book club. All white women. I mean, I can't even say majority. All white women. I was the only African American woman, and really the purpose is really was teacher friends that kind of pulled me in, and she had already brought a bunch of women together, and I was like, this is going to get me out of my traditional genres. So I read. I definitely enjoyed it. I read so many different types of books,
Yeah.
but me trying to kind of come in and say, hey, I got a book recommendation. I'm thinking this is one my sister just gave me. And this was in the beginning of us kind of forming our relationship and books around us. So I didn't know what kind of books you just said it was good. And I said, hey, it's good. Now, we read that book. Everybody went out and bought that book.
Over the
Oh,
age
wait.
range of these women.
Oh, yes. Oh, so we talking 30, 35 to about 60. And and the book is spicy. And I mean, you got the N word dropping, just cultural nuances, things that just don't are understood. You got them talking a little bit about the American flag and kneeling. I mean, so many things that are controversial, but
Yes.
are kind of understood in Black culture. But they
Love it.
love the book. I mean,
Sahara was embarrassed.
when I sat down to read it, I was like, oh my gosh, what have I done? Oh, it was, but once we got to the table and everybody showed up with a copy of the book, I said, y'all didn't even y'all didn't read the book. Y'all didn't share the book. Y'all didn't go get it from the library. They bought the book.
It's a good book, and I think what I really appreciated, after she got through it, is that sometimes you can have. I think books allow you to have those uncomfortable conversations or allows you to provide exposure, even without having the conversation kind of directly, because they were able, it's not a book club where every week you're meeting, right? You finish
Right,
the book and then you come and you give your perspective.
right.
And so it was good because it forced them to finish and it forced them to see, oh wow, this is a perspective that likely I would just sit in a room with somebody and have that level of dialogue, because it was very, at some parts were very intimate around
Hmm.
thoughts and feelings that some could say are like majority for Black women, because that was the perspective that was primarily given. But I was tickled, and I said, I never told you to recommend that book.
I never told you to share that book. And not until I got into it that I was just like, oh my gosh. All that to say that it brought through, like you said, so many different perspectives.
Yeah.
And I feel like, sometimes when you are reading just outside of your traditional culture, it does bring in things that you don't think about.
Yeah.
And that's really why I joined the book club. I'm like, let's get different perspectives, because I don't like to stay in a lane. And sometimes I can do that with romance. So,
Yeah.
you want to move. You want to move and shake, and just become a well-rounded reader.
Yeah. And I do think one of the reasons I'm so hesitant to move to like the Colleen Hoovers of the world is because I like a certain character development when it comes to men in my book.
Yeah, because when you got to Clean Moves, I don't, because he's a Jewish man, Jewish and black. And she was like, I don't see myself in
See myself with that.
you.
Well, I like to see myself in the characters.
Yeah, but I mean, I did enjoy that
No, it was definitely a good move. So, what's a book you've read lately that has stayed with you?
one. You know what? Actually, I was thinking about this, because Heal by Kennedy Ryan,
Yeah. Yeah.
it was so good.
Yeah.
I mean, just a book for lovers, for
Yeah.
sure. Just, kind of overcoming an obstacle, going through something with someone when you are in life, and you are, you got an opportunity and you're running forward towards that opportunity, and you have the blinders on, but your health or something stops you from this dream. And then you have somebody who's like, I don't care. I'm going to support you. It just was so good. Such a good read. Such a good read.
Yeah. And so, Sarah, if you can believe it, it's already been 30 minutes. We've dived right into all things books. Is there anything that I didn't necessarily ask or hit on that you want to share with the larger audience around reading?
Right now in this stage, I really, from a teacher's perspective, I do think that it is so important that, just we show up for our kids and
Yeah.
we read in front of them. And we
Yeah.
just we develop the love for it, because our world is taken over by social media, and they see us scrolling more than they see us reading.
Yeah.
And so, I want to flip that. I want to flip that narrative and show them that there's other ways that you can be entertained.
Yeah. I love that. And again, I want to be that, how Olivia described me, that rich auntie
Mm-hmm.
beach
Running,
reading.
look, spending her money in Barnes and Noble.
Well, we could do a whole other episode on the price of books because, and
Oh,
that's going back to renting.
oh my gosh, it is something. They are getting my money, but honestly, I mean, even little bookstores, there's
Yeah.
several places, and people do book exchanges. You order it from Amazon and here, there, and everywhere. But build a library, because it feels good to finish a book and have something next to go to.
Yeah. It feels good. And also to share.
Yeah.
To
Oh
be able
yeah.
to say, "Oh, take this." Like I have the third iteration of the Kennedy Ryan that I haven't read, and I'm actually reading that next. So I'm pretty excited.
Uh-huh.
But I think that is another way of love language. My friend who's in the Navy, he recently went out and I'm getting ready to say she went out on tour, but that's not what it's called. Don't correct me. Don't drop it in the comments.
Oh my gosh.
And she was going to be on her boat for like 6 months or whatever. And what did I do? I sent her books because that is my love language to say, hey, we're not together. We're not going to be talking regularly, but this is something that I love and I want you to experience um, this too, because it just takes you to another.
And when she comes back stateside, there's
Yeah.
your conversation.
Yeah.
That's how we pick up, where we weren't together. We've
Yeah.
journeyed far,
Yeah.
but we've journeyed in that book together, and let's come back and talk about it.
And let's talk about it. And
Yeah.
hopefully we're not just reading and feeling like these things are so out of touch, right? That these will eventually, some of these things will actually happen for us. And
Yeah.
it puts us in a perspective of like, this is actually attainable, right? Not all this is fiction. Some of this,
Yeah.
and I like to read those kind of stories where you can see yourself in
So
those,
in the character.
in a character.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, Sahara, Brian,
Mm.
say thank you for your time and appreciate you coming on here and sharing all things that we hit on your personal relationship when it comes to books from an education standpoint. And so to all my listeners out there, I appreciate you guys for always tuning in. And until next time, this is Big Moves, Bigger Conversations. Talk soon.
Bye, guys. Thank you for having me.
To the people. Thank you for watching another episode of Big Moves, Bigger Conversations. Like, subscribe. Thank you for watching another episode of Big Moves, Bigger Conversations. Like, subscribe.